All right, so welcome to another deep dive. And this time we're taking a look at Macbeth Act 1, Scene 7. We're going to witness Macbeth grappling with, a pretty big decision here. Whether or not to kill King Duncan. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a moral dilemma, right?
Oh, yeah. It is a pivotal moment in the play. We're seeing Macbeth at this point teetering on the edge of this really steep and dark cliff. And it's his ambition that's just really pushing him closer and closer to the edge.
So let's sort of set the scene here. We're in Macbeth's castle just before a big feast for the king, right?
Yeah.
Servants are running around. Music's probably playing in the background. Everybody's getting ready to party and celebrate. But meanwhile, Macbeth has got murder on his mind.
Yeah, and that contrast is super important, I think. It really highlights that deception and the hidden darkness. It's kind of lurking beneath the surface of what should be a joyful celebration. And, Shakespeare, he was a master of using these kinds of contrasts to create dramatic tension.
Yeah. It's like, when you know a secret that nobody else does.
Yeah,
But this secret's a lot more intense than, who ate the last cookie.
exactly. And that brings us to one of the most famous speeches in all of Shakespeare, right? Macbeth's soliloquy. Remember those from high school?
Oh, yeah.
Soliloquy is basically a character talking to themselves and really just letting the audience in on their deepest thoughts and feelings.
So it's like we're getting this little sneak peek into Macbeth's brain.
Exactly.
And I got to say, what we find there is pretty unsettling. So he kicks off this soliloquy with the line, "If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly."
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's already decided that, killing Duncan is the way to go. But he's really struggling with the how and the when.
Yeah, you can almost hear those wheels turning in his head, can't you? He wishes he could just snap his fingers and, just like that, become king without any of the consequences or bloodshed. But deep down, I think he knows it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that becomes super clear, I think, when he says, "We still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which, being taught, return to plague the inventor." So it's almost like he's realizing that even if he gets away with it, the act of murder itself is going to have lasting consequences.
He understands that, violence begets violence. It's almost as if he's foreshadowing his own downfall, realizing that what goes around comes around.
That is pretty heavy stuff for a guy who's about to head to a party. But here's where I find Macbeth really interesting, because he knows that Duncan is a good king. He even says, "Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his taking off."
Oh.
So it's almost as if he's trying to convince himself that Duncan deserves to die, even though he knows it's not true.
Yeah, that's what makes Macbeth so compelling. He's not just a straightforward villain, he's wrestling with his conscience. He sees the good in Duncan, but his ambition, it's so strong that it overshadows everything else. And it's that inner conflict that really makes him a tragic figure.
So what's the main thing driving him toward murder then?
Well, in his own words, he says, "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls on the other."
It's like he's saying ambition is this powerful horse that can easily just throw its rider.
I mean, that's such a vivid image. And it really does speak to something very, I think, universal about human nature. We all have ambitions, right? But Shakespeare's really warning us, I think, that unchecked ambition can be super dangerous. It can make us do things we never thought we were capable of doing. Like, I don't know, murdering a king.
Right, like murdering a king.
Right.
It's like he's looking into a mirror, and he's just seeing his own potential for darkness. And I think that's what makes this soliloquy so powerful. Yet not just about Macbeth's dilemma. It's about the choices that we all face, and really the consequences of letting our desires control us.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what if you were in Macbeth's shoes? Feeling that same pull of ambition, would you be able to resist? I think that's a question that's kept audiences coming back to this play for centuries, right? What would we do when faced with that kind of overwhelming temptation?
Well, in Macbeth's case, it seems like he might actually be having some second thoughts about it all, at least until Lady Macbeth enters the scene. Talk about a power shift.
Oh, Lady Macbeth.
Oh.
She's a fascinating character, incredibly ambitious. I mean, even more so than Macbeth himself. And she's absolutely determined to see her husband become king. But she understands that he's got a conscience. So she uses some pretty, I would say, specific tactics to try and manipulate him.
It's almost like she's studied him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Figured out all of his weaknesses, and then she's just using them against him. She doesn't just come right out and say, "Hey, let's kill the king." Instead, she attacks his manhood. She questions his courage and his resolve.
Exactly. She starts off by saying, "Was the hope drunk, wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since, and wakes it now, to look so green and pale, at what it did so freely? It's basically like she's saying, hey, remember when you were all gung-ho about this plan? What happened? Are you scared now?
Yeah, and you can practically just hear the sarcasm dripping from her words.
Yeah.
It's like she's playing mind games with him,
Yeah.
pushing his buttons to get the reaction that she wants.
It's incredibly effective. During Shakespeare's time, a man's honor and courage were everything. So to be called weak or cowardly was the ultimate insult. And Lady Macbeth knows this, and she just uses it to her advantage.
The more we talk about her, the more I'm starting to think that maybe she's actually the mastermind behind this whole scheme.
It's a possibility. But I think what's even more chilling is how far she's willing to go to achieve her goals. She famously says, I have given suck and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this. I mean, that image is so shocking, so violent, it's almost hard to really comprehend.
Seriously, who says that? It's like she's trying to prove she's even more ruthless than Macbeth is.
Yeah.
Like she's capable of anything to get what she wants.
Yeah, this speech has been analyzed and debated for centuries. Some people believe she's truly heartless, and others see it as kind of a twisted display of loyalty to her husband. She's basically saying, I would do anything for you, even commit the most unspeakable act.
Either way, it's a pretty disturbing image, especially coming from, a woman who should be nurturing and protective. It really shows that dark side of ambition and just the lengths that some people will go to for power.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to note that Lady Macbeth never actually kills anyone herself. She manipulates and influences. But she lets Macbeth get his hands dirty. It makes you wonder, is she truly the more ambitious one, or is she just better at playing the game?
That is a great question. And speaking of playing the game, Lady Macbeth doesn't just push Macbeth to act. She lays out a detailed plan for him. She tells him they're going to drug Duncan's guards and frame them for the murder, make it look like, some drunken brawl that went wrong.
It's a pretty clever plan, albeit wicked. But by providing him with this step-by-step guide, she's removing any obstacles or excuses Macbeth might have.
Yeah, she's basically saying, here's the plan, all you have to do is execute it. It's like she's handing him a loaded gun and telling him where to aim.
That's what makes her such a dangerous character. She understands how to use words as weapons, and she wields them with precision. Sometimes I think the most effective way to achieve your goals is to make someone else think it was their idea all along.
So what's Macbeth's final decision? Does he go through with the plan?
Well, he's still hesitant. But Lady Macbeth, she delivers this one final blow. She tells him to screw your courage to the sticking place, essentially just urging him to stop being a coward and get the job done.
Yeah, that's some tough love right there.
It works, though. In those final lines of the scene, Macbeth commits to the deed. He says, I am settled, and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat.
So he's made his choice.
Yeah.
And there's no going back now.
That's exactly right. Act 1, Scene 7 ends with this chilling sense of foreboding. We know that Macbeth is going to commit this terrible act, and we're left just wondering what the consequences are going to be.
It really is like watching a train wreck in slow motion, You know it's going to be bad, but you just can't look away.
And that's what I think is so brilliant about Shakespeare. He creates these moments of really intense dramatic irony, where we, the audience, we know more than the characters do, and we're just left kind of hanging there wondering how it's all going to play out.
So we've seen Macbeth, wrestling with his conscience. We've seen him be manipulated by his wife. And he's finally just given in to his ambition. But what's the bigger picture here? What can we really learn from this scene?
Well, I think it really speaks to these timeless themes, right? Ambition, power, and really the corrupting influence of both. Macbeth starts out as this, seemingly noble warrior, but the allure of the throne, and you combine that with Lady Macbeth's, constant prodding, it leads him down a very dark path.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even the best of us can be tempted.
Mm-hmm.
And that power, well, it can be a dangerous drug.
Oh, absolutely. And it also makes us question, I think, the whole nature of free will versus fate. Did Macbeth even have a choice in this? Or was he destined to become a tyrant all along?
Oh, man. That's a question philosophers have been debating for centuries. I think Shakespeare is suggesting, though, that we do have choices. But those choices are influenced by a whole bunch of different factors, our desires, our fears, the people that surround us, and maybe even some unseen forces at play.
Right. And sometimes I think even when we think we're in control, we're actually being manipulated, like puppets on a string.
Kind of like how Macbeth is being manipulated by Lady Macbeth.
Exactly. She is a master manipulator, playing on his insecurities, his ambitions, to ultimately achieve her own goals.
It's a reminder, I think, to always be aware of the people in our lives who might be trying to influence us. for good or for bad.
And to be mindful of our own weaknesses and desires. We all have them, and it's up to us to decide whether we're going to let them control us or not.
So if a, junior high or high school student was trying to wrap their heads around this scene, what's the one key takeaway they should remember?
I think the biggest one is that choices have consequences. Macbeth's decision to kill Duncan sets off this chain reaction. That ultimately leads to his own downfall and the destruction of everyone around him. It's a powerful reminder that our actions have ripple effects and that even what seem like small choices can have huge consequences.
That's a lesson we can all learn from, no matter what age we are. And it makes me think about, how we face these kind of moral dilemmas in our own lives, right? Maybe not as dramatic as murdering a king, but choices that test our values and have lasting impacts on the people around us.
Exactly. Shakespeare gives us these larger-than-life characters and situations, but the themes that he explores are just deeply human and, I think, relatable.
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive here into Act 1, Scene 7 of Macbeth. We covered the key themes, we analyzed the characters, and we even related it all back to our own lives.
It's a scene that's packed with drama, psychological complexity, and just timeless wisdom.
And it's just the beginning of Macbeth's journey, too.
Yeah.
If you want to see how it all unfolds, I highly recommend checking out the rest of the play. You will not be disappointed.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.